Hey everybody, my name is Owen McCafferty for the Film Photography Project, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Brownie f2.7 regular 8mm movie camera. It takes regular 8mm film, which is also called double 8 or standard 8, and I'll show you what that film is and how to load it. And I'll also show you the basic operation of the camera. It's very easy to use. I would say once you're able to load a camera like this, you can use just about any other regular 8mm camera that you'll find out there. This has got a 2.7 fixed 13mm lens. The aperture is controlled by this sliding wheel here. And if we zoom in, you can sort of see that one sort of word of caution that you should look out for is the fact that most film that you would have run through this camera in 1960 would have been under 50 ISO or 50 ASA. It's the same thing. Suggested aperture openings probably aren't going to be well suited to the type of film that you're going to be shooting. You should really meter your film instead of sort of following these guidelines, because they're probably going to overexpose or underexpose your film. It's got a fixed lens, so there's no focusing. You just sort of have to keep that in mind. I would stay away from anything that's closer than 5 or 6 feet. This is your film footage counter, which is automatically set when you enter in when you load a new roll of film. So you'll go ahead and load your film up, and that'll go to the full side, and I'll show you how that works also. On the top, you'll notice this screw stopper or holder. That's so you can affix the Kodak Brownie movie light. This camera uses regular 8mm film, a 25-foot spool like this, and a daylight spool, and you'll see it's daylight because it's black and solid. You'll notice that there's a base side, which is the shiny side, and then there's the emulsion side, which is sort of a matte gray side. So to load the camera, you want to open the camera using the knob here. And right away you can tell it's an 8mm or regular 8 or standard 8. It's all the same thing. You'll know it's an 8mm camera because there's two spools. This is the take-up spool or the empty spool. And you'll need to put it to this side. This is where the take-up spool is going to go, the empty take-up spool. You can actually only fit this spool in a particular way. It's designed so that in order to put it on the take-up side, you have to flip it to where the instruction tells you that the film is only half exposed. And I'll show you what that means in a second. But the first thing we need to do is flip that over there. We're going to take our unexposed film. We need to put it in the camera so that the emulsion side, again, this matte side, is facing the lens. That's how it's properly exposed. So we're going to put it into the camera like this so that when we wind the film over, it's going to be, the emulsion side will be facing the lens. So this camera is super easy to load. It's actually got a nice little loop channel in there so you know exactly where to put it, and that's also going to help to keep the loop a consistent size during filming, which helps to make sure that your film is steady when it's being shot. So all we really need to do is pull some of this film out, and you can do this in subdued or shaded light, because this length of film is going to be what's called your leader, so you don't need to worry about doing this in the dark. If you get proficient at this and you really want to be, money savvy, you can certainly do this in the dark and save a couple frames, so you get even more film out of your bang for your buck. But what we need to do is, you'll notice there's this sort of movable film plane, and that's the film gate. So we're going to push this back and insert the film behind the gate. And that's just going to fit in there. And you'll sort of hear it click once it fits down. And then that little flap will actually move back and keep the film flat against the film gate. All right. So the next thing we need to do is actually insert the film into the empty spool. There's a slot there on the spool for the film to go in. I want a little bit more play. I want a little bit more film here so I can actually spool it onto the film properly. So I'm going to run the camera a bit. This is a manual wind camera. There's no batteries involved. So it's a spring motor that's wound with this lever. And to wind, you just keep winding until you start to feel a little resistance. Don't wind too hard because you don't want to overwind the motor, and then you'll break the spring and the camera is pretty much useless. So just keep winding until you feel the resistance start. Alright, so now it won't wind anymore, so we're at a full wind. Clip that back down. Alright, so like I said, I need a little more play. So I'm just going to run the camera by pressing on the shutter button. The film's going to come out a little bit. That's perfect. Take the film. We want to load the film exactly as it comes off of the full reel. We want to make sure that the emulsion side is pointing in towards the spool. So just push the film in that little slot, wind it a little bit with your fingers, put it back on the spool, and then just hit the shutter button again so you can make sure that everything is working, and it is. Now we're ready to put the door back on. Lock the door in place. Now, as I showed you before, the film I have, there's not a lot of film left. There's about 5 feet left according to the camera. Of course, your arrow will be pointing past or before the 25-foot mark. So what you would want to do is run the camera until that little red arrow is pointing exactly at 25. That means you're ready to start shooting. Now, regular 8mm film is actually kind of unique. The film is 16mm wide, just like 16mm film, but when it's running through the camera, you're only shooting one side of that film. So that's why this spool here says film half exposed when on this camera spool. So as you're filming, the camera's only exposing one half of the film, and when you're finished filming, you'll need to flip the film over to expose the other half. So I'm gonna let this run out so you can actually see what that's gonna look like when you go to shoot your film. And of course, you never want to run your camera without this door on. This is test film, so I don't care whether or not it's exposed, but obviously this would ruin your film if you did it with your film in your camera. So as you see, we're getting to the end of the film. Now we'll run through the camera. So of course, you'll look here and it'll say empty, so you want to open your camera up. And just like it says on the spool, film half exposed when on this side. So you've only exposed half of this film. The camera's only exposed this half of the film. So what you're going to do, you're going to take this spool off, take your empty spool, flip it over, put this spool on the other side, again flip it over. The spools are designed so they'll only fit in the right direction, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But then what we'll do is we'll load the film again, just like we did before. Go through. Again, emulsion side facing the lens, and then the emulsion side facing in to the spool, to the take-up spool. And then making sure that it's spooling correctly, you put your cover back on, and you're ready to start shooting the other side of the film. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you shoot movie film because it's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, guys.